Okay guys, so for this video, these are the tools that we will be using. Solder to be able to solder, borax, polishing compound, a torch, a Dremel, some little snips, some pliers, a hammer, a third hand. This is solder paste. I don't use this in this video, but this is a nice option if you're learning. And I'll kind of go over that a little bit in the video. Some tweezers just to put it in the pH down. So that's water and pH down, and that is used to clean and to quench the piece after you get it hot. And then some little Dremel pieces. Oh, and then a soldering block too. Okay, so what I like to do here is take a 12 gauge bead wire, and I did speed this up a little bit, and I am doing a voiceover just so you guys don't have to hear that hammering noise and things like that. And so what I'm talking about here is I like to make the ring a little bit smaller and then hammer it, and when I hammer it, it'll make it a little bit bigger. And there are different ways of doing the hammer look where you can put it on like a stainless steel sheet and measure it out, hammer it that way. I'm usually making multiple rings at a time, so I just hammer it on the mandrel because that's easiest for me because I'm doing, 5 or 6 at a time. So I'm just wrapping it around and then hammering all the way around that ring. So the wire was a little hard to work with, so I decided to heat it up a little bit and make it a little bit more malleable and easier to work with. This is called annealing, which I just take the wire and heat it up and then put it here in some pH down mixed with water, and that just makes it so it's easier to work with. I'm putting it back on that mandrel, and I'll hit it a few more times with that hammer, and it'll just make it so I can get closer size to what I'm actually looking for here. So after getting the hammered look that I'm looking for, I will take the wire and take some little snips and just cut where I want to cut. To make the size of the ring that I want to make. And then I take some pliers and just turn that little side in there. And if you want to do a full band, you just skip this little step right here of bending that wire. And then you just want to make sure that it lines up to that first bead there. Next, we're going to take a Dremel and sand off that little sharp point that we got from snipping the wire. We want to make sure we take any little sharp points off the jewelry because obviously we don't want anyone getting cut or hurt, and that will prevent people from wanting to buy from us if they're getting hurt on our jewelry. So we want to take that off. And now we want to solder the ring together. So we're just going to take that ring, and I'm putting it in a third hand. Sorry, it's a little bit out of the frame. Oh, there you go. Taking it, putting it in a third hand, and then putting borax on the spot that we want to solder. Taking a torch and just turning that nozzle there, and then pushing that button turns the torch on. And we're just heating it up. It usually turns black, and then it turns a little more on the white side. And I take that wire there, and I will tap it. You can also put this is where you would put that silver paste if you do purchase that. But if you don't purchase that, then you can take just a wire and just tap it. Or you can also cut a little piece of the wire and put it where you want it to solder. And I can show you guys how to do that also. I always just tap it, but it's easier to do when you've been silversmithing longer. It's really hard to get the right amount and not too much. And then you definitely don't want to touch whatever you just soldered because it's going to be really, really hot. So you want to take it with some tweezers and put it in that water pH mixture and quench it. And here I'm just drying it off with a rag. And a way of cleaning it is to put it in a tumbler and with a little bit of soap and water, and that will clean whatever piece that you're doing. But I'm going to assume a lot of people don't have, and that's an example of what it looks like when it comes out. I'm going to assume a lot of people don't have a tumbler, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it with a Dremel just as a second option. I do suggest investing in a tumbler and stainless steel shot if you're going to be doing this quite a bit, because it is a good tool to have. So these are just different Dremel bits that I have. This Dremel is a different size, so I do have two different Dremels, and then these are the different sanding discs that I have. That green one there all the way up to that silver one is like, I believe 80 to 1,000. I could be wrong. I don't have them memorized, to be honest. You'd think I probably would after silversmithing for as long as I have, but I just don't. So I do actually like using those sanding discs a lot more. You can get the same effect as what I'm getting here with this one. With the sanding disc. These ones that right here actually get ground down to basically nothing really fast. So I actually usually don't use these, so I don't really know why I'm using it here. But the sanding disc, I really like those. And yeah, so I like using those a lot more. This just kind of gives you that matte effect, but using an 80 grit sanding disc would do the same. So I did switch over to a sanding disc. I believe this one is a 600 grit, and that's just going to make it a lot shinier. Like I said, these are just basically little mini sandpapers, and you just want to go up from 80 grit to 400 grit to 600 grit, that kind of thing. And that's what I'm doing here, basically, is going from an 80 grit to or whatever grit that was up. And you don't have to exactly go each and every one. If you do, then you're going to get a shinier finished product. But I am also going to be using a polishing compound. So that helps a lot. And here I'm switching out the bit to I believe that one is a 1,000 grit. Like I said, I don't really have them all memorized. But so that's just making it even shinier. I know it's probably kind of hard to see in the video exactly like how shiny it is, but it gives you an idea of what it's doing, making it shinier. So if you can kind of tell, the ring's kind of wonky there. So I'm just going to take a hammer and hammer that down a little bit, make it more round. It'll make the finished product not so wonky. And after you do if you do this after you do the polishing compound, it kind of leaves it like a matte look to it. And so I like to do it before doing a polishing compound, or even before I start shining it up all together. So and I wanted this ring to be more of a 7 because that's my ring size, and I like wearing these little guys. So I'm just hammering it down, and it is just good for you guys to see too, like how easy it is to hammer that and get it to a little bit of a bigger size. And there we go, it's a 7. So from here, I'm taking a Fabuluster, or you can also use the either one. It's just a polishing compound. I'm making sure I got a lot on my little polishing pad there that's on my Dremel, and I'm going around. And if you notice like how much shinier it is, and it does get dirtier like as you're doing this because it's putting the polishing compound on there, but look how shiny that is. You can tell like definitely where the matte is and then where it's polishing, and it's only been a few short minutes, so definitely nice, that's for sure. Just going around making sure I get all of it. You want to go all the way around the ring and then get the inside of it also. And here is getting the inside. And this happens quite often. If that happens to you while you're doing this, just turn the Dremel off. You'll be able to pull it right back off. It does that typically, or it can also make it go flying across the room and you have to search for it a little bit. And I'm just making sure to get it all the way around and get it really, really good also. So here is what it looks like after it's been polished. It hasn't had the soap and water yet, which is our next step. I'm going to go over to the sink and put some soap and water on it and wash it off. It does get your hands pretty dirty, that polishing compound, but that will come off when you wash your hands or wash the piece of jewelry off with soap and water. I like using Dawn dish soap. That's my favorite. And then just taking that toothbrush and brushing that ring off. And I do like to make sure to brush on my fingers a little bit too to get that black off. You can use gloves when doing the polishing compound. I had a pair and then I lost them. Sometimes it can be a little awkward having gloves on too while doing that. With the polishing compound, it can make it hard to hold on to the piece of jewelry with gloves on. And I'm just making sure to brush that really, really well. So here I'm just drying it off with a rag, and then this is the finished product, nice and shiny, just how we like it. If you like the matte look, you can just skip that last part. This is the next type of ring I will be making in my videos. If you want to purchase the materials to make the ring along with me, you can definitely do that. I can do spoon rings or decorative rings like that, lightning bolt rings. So just let me know what you guys, bracelets like this, let me know what you guys want to learn how to do, and we can definitely do that. The more decorative and the lightning bolt rings are really, really hard to make, but we can definitely start with some easier things and then working our way up to the harder stuff.